She is majoring in psychology. Her faculty sponsor is Woodard, and she will be presenting on sleep and college satisfaction.
Thank you. Alright, so first I wanted to talk about sleep in general and what is it? Historically, people used to think that sleep was a time when your brain just shut down and not much was really going on. Now we know that sleep is actually a time when a lot more is going on that the brain isn't able to do while focusing on conscious problems. One of those things is memory consolidation, and that's firming up of the learning that occurs during the day. And this is especially important for college students because we're paying a lot of money in order to remember things. So a lot of people wonder, how much sleep do I need? This year, the National Sleep Foundation sent out updated sleep duration recommendations. And if you see on the y-axis is hours of sleep, and the x-axis is different age groups ranging from newborn all the way to older adult. The age group that I'm focused on is the young adult age range, which is 18 to 25-year-olds. The dark blue area is the recommended amount of sleep. So it's recommended that our age group gets 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. They've also added the light blue range here, which puts ranges of hours that people may be able to function, but not the optimal functioning. So on the low end, that's 6 hours, and on the high end, that's 10 to 11 hours. Anything outside of the blue range is not recommended. When you're not getting enough sleep, that's called sleep deprivation. And some consequences include judgment and reaction time slowing, memory loss, health issues, and depression and mood changes. And if you have sleep deprivation, sometimes it's accounted for as sleep debt. This can be thought of like a bank account. So if you're getting the recommended amount of sleep, your bank account's balanced. If you're not getting the recommended amount, then your bank account's overdrawn. And so an example of this would be if you're recommended to get 8 hours of sleep a night and you only get 7, after one night you'll have 1 hour sleep debt. After 2 weeks, you have a 14-hour sleep debt. And this usually accumulates over 2 weeks. So how you were sleeping 2 weeks ago could be impacting you today. And unfortunately, unlike a bank account, you cannot have a savings account for sleep. So you can't sleep all weekend in anticipation of not sleeping next week. One of the consequences of sleep deprivation that I wanted to focus on a little more is mood changes. Talbot and colleagues found that participants in a sleep-deprived condition reported less positive moods. Another study that looked at children found that when they got the recommended amount of sleep, they scored higher on optimism scales. And another study that looked specifically at college students found that when they reported sleeping fewer hours, they stated they had a more negative mood. So sleep is not only related to mood, it's also related to satisfaction with one's job and satisfaction with life. One study done by Scott and Judge found, after looking at employees over a month's time, that when employees slept less the previous night, the next day they had less satisfaction with their job. Another study looked at adults and found that if they got the recommended amount of sleep, then they scored higher on optimism scales and satisfaction with life scales than adults who did not get the recommended amount. The hypothesis for the current study is that sleep disturbance and college satisfaction will have a significant negative relationship. So what that means is more sleep disturbance will be correlated with lower levels of satisfaction with college. In my study, I had 74 participants, 52 of which were female. Their ages ranged from 18 to 24, with a mean around 19. The first survey I used was an adapted version of the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. Questions were added to it that looked at sleep from the previous night as well as sleep over a month's time. Possible scores could range from 0 to 21, with higher scores equaling greater sleep disturbance. Questions looked at amount of sleep from the previous night and over a month's time, and also quality of sleep, with questions like how often do you cough or snore loudly, how often do you feel too hot, and participants responded on a scale from not during the past month to 3 or more times a week. The scores ranged from 2 to 12, with a mean around 6. The second survey was designed to look at college satisfaction, and it was created using the Index of Job Satisfaction and the Satisfaction with Life scale, with questions added to it that specifically looked at college satisfaction. Possible scores could range from 32 to 224, with higher scores equaling greater satisfaction. The scores were comprised of 4 components: satisfaction with life, satisfaction with college, mood, and stress. The scores ranged from 118 to 200, with a mean around 162. The first variable that I was interested in looking at was sleep duration, to see on average how long participants in my study were sleeping. So looking at the scores reported from the previous night, around 52% were sleeping over 7 hours. And if you recall, the recommended amount is 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Then looking at sleep duration reported from the past month, around 42.5 were sleeping over 7 hours. So what this means is around 50% of the students in my survey were not getting the recommended amount of sleep. The first analysis that I did was to see if there was a relationship between sleep and satisfaction. And I found that there was a significant negative correlation, which is what I hypothesized. So what this means is the more sleep disturbance someone had, the less satisfied they were with college. Now there are more variables that I was interested in looking at, so I did a regression. And basically what that means is I'm trying to see what the best predictors of satisfaction were. And I found that mood was a significant predictor of satisfaction. So mood was predicting satisfaction. However, when I added it into the regression with sleep disturbance, I found sleep disturbance was no longer predicting satisfaction. So the next thing to do was a mediational regression. And basically what that means is to see if mood is explaining why sleep disturbance and satisfaction with college are related. So the first thing to do is see if sleep disturbance significantly predicts satisfaction with college, which it did. Then see if sleep disturbance predicts mood, and if mood predicts satisfaction with college. And the purpose of these first 3 steps is to make sure that there's a relationship between all the variables. So if any one of these was non-significant, then a mediation wouldn't have been possible. The last step is to put sleep disturbance and mood into the regression together to predict satisfaction and see if this link here is no longer significant. And when that happens, that means that the mediation is predicted. So the way that we're interpreting this is that sleep disturbance is impacting mood, which is impacting satisfaction. And previous research supports this directionality. So looking specifically at the link between sleep disturbance and mood, we see that participants in sleep-deprived conditions have less positive moods, and when college students reported sleeping fewer hours, they also reported more negative. Looking at the link between mood and satisfaction, one study done by George and Jones looked at mood, job satisfaction, and turnover intentions. And they found that people with a lower mood had lower satisfaction with their job and higher intentions of leaving that job. So what this means is more sleep disturbance is leading to a more negative mood, which is leading to lower levels of college satisfaction. Looking at limitations in future research, one interesting thing to do would be to look and see if there's any differences between ethnicities. Only 12 participants in my study reported an ethnicity other than white, so there wasn't really able to run any analyses on it just because there's so few people. So it'd be interesting to see if there's different predictors of satisfaction. Another interesting thing would be to look at year in education, to see if there's a difference between first-year students who may be homesick or thinking of transferring versus seniors or even graduate students who are more comfortable or who may be furthering their education. Looking at implications, it'd be interesting to see if administrators in charge of retention rates at schools should be aware that there's more things impacting retention than just academics or finances or things that normally they consider. They could do informational sessions or even classes early on in a student's academic career in order to inform them about how much sleep they need and the impacts of not getting enough sleep. On a more personal level, students need to be aware of how much sleep they're regularly getting, how much sleep they need to be getting, and the impacts of not getting enough sleep. They need to be aware it impacts many more aspects of their life than just being tired the next day. So the take-home message. If you want to be a happier student and enjoy your college experience more, perhaps one place to start is examining your sleep habits. I'd like to thank Dr. Jakura for being my advisor and helping in so many ways, Dr. Keys, Dr. Seville for being on my committee, Dr. Hill for helping me with the mediational analysis, Dr. B for the seminar class, Rachel Vitale for helping collect data, Mrs. Shara Swan for running the department and keeping everything going. and the Department of Psychological Science for making this all possible.
You said that it is not possible to get more sleep one day and have less sleep the next day. And now I was wondering if it would work the other way around. So I could get less sleep one day, but catch up by sleeping the respective amount of hours more next day. So I was wondering which is that.
Yeah, so while you can't like sleep all weekend to make up for pulling 3 all-nighters the next week, it doesn't work that way. It does work the other way. So if you miss an hour of sleep last night and then you take a nap during the day, it does help to reduce your sleep debt. So while you can't just sleep all day to make it up for it, you can like take naps and things like that to help reduce your sleep debt. Yeah.
I'm sure this is an easy question you have an answer for, but why do people behave in ways that make them unhappy and unsatisfied?
That's a very good question. Even though research has shown that there's all these impacts of not getting enough sleep, people just feel they don't have enough time during the day. So they want to extend their hours of getting stuff done. So with college students, there's the triangle. You have to pick 2. I don't know if you've seen that, but you can pick sleep, studying, or having fun. Mm-hmm. So people usually cut down on sleep in order to have more time during the day to get everything done.
Do naps help?
Yeah, naps do help. They can help reduce your sleep debt during, like, if you don't get enough sleep during the night, they do help towards that. Yeah.
Did you monitor your own sleep habits while you were preparing your data for this presentation?
I usually actually have pretty good sleep. I don't really pull all-nighters or anything, so caffeine usage I need to work on a little bit. But anyone else? Oh yeah.
What about this self-reported sleep? Do you think it would make a difference if people were monitored with Fitbits or something like that and you looked at actual sleep? Would you get better correlation?
We actually looked at our subjective data to see if what people were reporting as their quality of sleep and the numbers they were reporting, and we found that they were significantly correlated. So if people were saying, I slept really good, and then they also reported getting a good amount of sleep. So they weren't reporting like, I slept 4 hours, but my sleep was great. So that suggests that the subjective data is reporting, at least what they say they're reporting is constant. But that would be something to look into the future more too with the objective.
You're out of time, so